Welcome to the recap of the Miss Universe India 2024 first ever national costume competition. I say first ever because we have new leadership, so this is their first production and it's really interesting to see. So the first thing I want to say is the venue I think was really beautiful, very cool, lots of LED lighting, big and grand. I think that's great. I also really like that the host did a good job of quickly coming on stage, introing the show, and then stepping away. They had the Miss Universe music playing in the background, which is super nostalgic, and I think whenever you hear that music, it's like this Miss Universe indicator, and I thought that that was a really nice touch. It just felt very Miss Universe when you were watching this. So I'm very new to this show, and I didn't even realize that I was tuning into national costume because the link that I clicked just said preliminaries. So to me, I was like, wait, what's happening right now? I wasn't prepared for this mentally. One thing I will say about this show is that I do think that it would have been great to see some really tight up close shots of the girls' faces, like tighter than what they were giving us, and also a little bit more lighting on the face. I feel like that's always great for onstage competitions. So I'm going to talk about my memorable national costumes, a lot of which I don't have a ton of context for. I'm always learning when I watch these competitions. But number 6 came out. She had this black ship piece on and then she stepped out of it. And it was giving me kind of like this cool pirate ghost ship vibes because she was in all black, like kind of spooky, very October. So I really like that one though. It was such a cool national costume. It did take her a little bit of time to get in and out of it. I wish it was a faster presentation, but regardless, it was memorable. Number 29 was interesting. So I don't know how I would describe this, but connected to her head was sort of like an arched piece, and she's dragging it on the floor. There's wheels on it. It was angled towards her. It almost seemed like she should have wore the costume with heels, so that the piece in the back should have been a little bit more upright. I'm not really sure. It was interesting, but she reminded me of like a live painting, the way that it framed her, which is like framed painting. So she reminded me a lot of that, and then like just absolutely beautiful. It was almost like her, like she was coming out of the painting. She was so still for a moment and then would make these small little movements, so it looked cool. Number 16, love this. It's huge, it's massive, there's a structure behind it. She has these jars on the side. She's walking on the stage, there's smoke, there's so many beautiful colors. I loved it. This was beautiful and unique. Number 17 had a cool costume. I don't know the exact meaning behind all of these costumes. I'm learning always, but she brings out the side pieces and we see these figures of people. But the cool part I liked is once she put that down, she brings her hands together, and what she has on her hands creates this rhinoceros of gold, and it was just a really cool little extra reveal at the end, so I liked that. Number 36 was cool because she had a multi-part reveal that involved props. So she comes out in this big structure, she opens it, she unveils herself. The costume that she was actually wearing in the red and yellow and white was really bold and pretty and vivid. And then she pulls out this book while she's on stage. This like secret prop comes out and then she puts it back. And so there were just multiple parts of it that I thought made it really interesting. Number 18 I want to mention because I was like, what, am I crazy? Her costume was very similar to what I just watched at Miss Cosmo. So Miss Cosmo India had almost the exact same costume, and it was one I'd never seen before. So it was really interesting that I was like, huh, what a coincidence to see it so soon again, but it is very memorable. Number 33, I was trying to figure out how did this one all come together. So there's a lot of gold going on here. It looks like there's a cow behind her, but then what was interesting about this piece were the pieces in front of her that kind of wrapped around the front of her thighs, and I was like, you don't really see that like structure protruding in that way, and it was just cool. It was so unique. I love the national costume pieces that in one way or another are just a little bit different from something we've seen before. Number 51 had another massive national costume, and it was really cool. I don't know all the meaning behind it, but it reminded me a lot of vendors, like when you go to city centers in a lot of places that I visited around the world, and there's like vendors with all these like cool, colorful pieces of things that they're selling. It could be literally anything. It could be garments, it could be a wind chime, it could be whatever it is, right? So it's like when you're traveling, you see a lot of those vendors, and it's always like something beautiful and colorful and eye-catching, something you want to take home. And that's what her piece reminded me of, that huge structure around her, and we saw all these things that were hanging from it, and the color that she was wearing and how that contrasted with the piece that was built around her. And it could not have been light. It looked difficult, but she made it look effortless on stage. So I really liked that one. Number 13's outfit was really cool. She had this great structure on her hips in the costume, and it just looked over exaggerated, kind of couture. I like that. She had a structure going on behind her, and then she had this trailing train behind her as well with even more details. And that is one thing I usually look for with a national costume is, did we pay attention to every angle of it? Because it takes them a while to walk off typically, and I love to see that the front was thought of as well as the sides and the back, every angle. Number 42 had this very beautiful gold dress, and there was a lot of just intricate details all over it, especially in the headpiece. When she turned around, she opened up this overskirt in the back, and there's writing on it, and I don't know what the writing means. I would love if you would tell me in the comments, actually. And if there's anything else you want to share about these national costumes, please do so, because this is always such a fun competition to learn more about these ladies and the tradition and the culture that's behind all of them. Number 25's was really cool. So she had this corset in the front. It was kind of like a breastplate of armor, and it had a lot of intricate detail. Now, the one thing that was unique about her when she turned to the side and when she exited, usually we'll have a lot of national costume pieces where we have the structure on the side and around the girl. So when she faces forward, you see it. But when she turned around, the extra piece that was sticking out of her costume was straight back, kind of like how you would have a big tail behind you. And it was just cool because when she turned to the side to exit, it was just a very different looking national costume, like something you don't see every day. So I thought that one was really cool. I really liked number 46's outfit. So it was just beautiful in itself, the two pieces that she was wearing. And then she had an umbrella, but I don't know if that's really in the context of this costume, I don't know if you would call it an umbrella, but to me, so she had this umbrella. Then she had these draped pieces of beading underneath it, which reminds me of rain. And it was just unique and beautiful. And I love that she had that piece to carry on stage. It was very cute. Number 14 in her red costume, because of the piece behind her and the colors, it really made her the center of attention in this national costume. It was like everything points to her and her beauty. And I thought that was really cool versus some other national costumes. It really is all about the costume and the contestant gets overshadowed. So I liked that for her. Number 5 is literally her family tree, which I thought was so cool. She has this trunk dress and then photos of her family tree, and I loved it. I don't know why we haven't seen that before. It just seems like a very obvious idea, but clearly it's not, because I at least haven't seen it before, but it was lovely. Number 49, let me just say how impressed I was. Not because her costume lit up, but because she went into that grand plie with a costume on her back. First of all, that position, difficult to do slowly with nothing on you. And she did it with a costume. So I'm just thinking about the whole preparation process and compensating for the balance to do that, to present this national costume. And if you don't know what I'm talking about, just try it for yourself right now. Drop into that grand plie, let's see it. Because it's not easy to do, especially when there's nerves and you might be shaking and there's all these people watching you. Add that to it, not easy. She did not wobble and she stood right up, and then that thing lit up. And so memorable for me. I loved it. Like, the white was bright, it looked great on the stage. The lights were of course cool, but I was just most impressed by that grand plie, honestly. That's what did it for me. Those were all my thoughts for their first national costume competition. So thank you so much for tuning into this episode. Be sure to tune in for my other Miss Universe coverage. And if there's anything else that you want to see on the channel, please comment below. Let me know. I do pay attention to that and kind of keep mental tallies of what everybody's asking for across all my social media. So I do pay attention to Instagram and YouTube and TikTok. Like, I see it and I keep a tally. So thank you so much for watching the episode, and I hope to see you very soon for the next one.